Welcome to Bringing Jesus Back into Focus. I'm Christopher John Joseph. I'm a Christian. I'm not a Jewish Christian. I was born into the Jewish Christian Catholic Church in 1957 and left when I was 16. And these are the differences between me, a Christian, there are not many of us left in the world, and Jewish Christians. Firstly, the Jewish religion, which is a big problem. The Old Testament, Jewish religion, it's not the Christian religion, they've got a Yahweh, God in it. They've got two Yahwehs in it, actually. One is a brutal, violent, genocidal, murdering, thieving war god. And Jesus said to the Jews, you are children of your father Satan. He was a murderer and a liar from the start, and you follow what he says to do. You will see this satanic war god of the Jews, which is actually the Egyptian war god Sekhmet. That's the closest resemblance, Sekhmet. They're worshipping the Egyptian war god Sekhmet. They go down to Jericho because their God Yahweh, or Sekhmet, tells them to go down to Jericho, kill them all, take all their gold and silver and brass, bring it back to my temple, says Sekhmet, or Yahweh One. Go say Yahweh One. And kill them all, and that land, I'm giving it to you. They had to go and murder and kill and steal. They were just murderers and thieves. So they did that. And Yahweh did that. And they thanked Yahweh for the wonderful victory to go down and slaughter and kill all the men, women and little children and steal everything and then steal their lands. Thank you, Yahweh. Now they are children of the satanic war god, Yahweh One. As Jesus said, that's, you're worshipping a satanic war god. He's saying that it's a war god. All war gods are satanic. But if you look at Leviticus, there's another god there, altogether different. That's the Pax god of the Romans, the peace god of the Romans, Irene, the peace god of the Greeks, or Shu, the peace god of the Egyptians. They had different temples. Those cultures were honest. Different gods, different forces, white, dark, light, darkness, evil, murdering, filthy, murdering, genocidal, thieving bastard, and a beautiful God of love and peace. Two completely different gods, opposing forces, Satan and the loving creator, if you want to put it that way. So what happened was, of course, in Leviticus, you get this Yahweh of love trying to direct the Jews to move away from the satanic war god by saying, if a foreigner is amongst you, for example, someone from Jericho, treat them as if they're Jewish and love them as you love a Jew. Now that's in Leviticus. If a foreigner, the people at Jericho are foreigners, if someone like from Jericho is amongst you, treat them as if they're Jewish and love them as yourself. That's another God. One says go down to Jericho, kill them all and steal everything and steal the lands. I am Yahweh, I'm going to help you do it. That's a war god. The other God says, oh, if any people from Jericho visit, treat them as if they're a Jew and love them as a Jew. That's a different God. So Jesus only recognizes Yahweh too, and that's what we have to say, because the Jewish religion is dishonest. They're worshipping two gods. Any 10-year-old could probably tell you that if they read the Old Testament. But I guess if you just brainwash everyone with a lie for thousands of years, they just don't even bother using any logic whatsoever, any intelligence whatsoever. Instead, they just, we believe that because someone said that. Doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. But, that's the way it is with Yahweh. Loves foreigners, then goes and kills them. And so what's happened is, of course, that's poisoned the Christian religion. So for starters, there are two gods in the Jewish religion. The book of Revelation is the book of Daniel from the Old Testament. Rip it out and burn it. That isn't Jesus coming on the clouds. That's a violent, brutal, murdering war god, and the person coming on the clouds in that dialogue is Satan. It's a satanic war god of some sort or other. So, and it's from Daniel, and that's from the Jewish religion, who worship a war god and a God of love. Now, Jesus is only love. So you've got to rip out the book of Revelation, cut the Bible in two, get rid of the Jewish religion out of all Christian churches, put it up on the shelf with all the other religions, who also have some love in it. The Quran, Buddhist teachings, the Sikh religion, the Bhagavad Gita. You'll find love in all the religions to some degree. And the Jews have this loving Yahweh, but they also have a violent war god. The problem is, of course, they still worship that violent war god, and that's a real problem. As far as I know, the Italians don't worship Mars anymore. And the Egyptians don't worship Sekhmet anymore. You know, they've sort of passed through that stage, but the Jews are still sort of like stuck in that quagmire of filth. But they've got a God of love there too. So some of the Jews follow just the Yahweh of love. So they're the good Jews, the good prophets. Then you got all the others who follow the war God Yahweh. But then they say it's the same God. Well, that's a lie. I mean, anyone knows that. He's got half a brain. So I'm a Christian, you see, so I only follow the words of Jesus. I only look at his words and parables. All the apocalyptic sayings that are put onto Jesus in the Gospels are false and lies. Matthew is the worst one who's done the worst damage, and it's been sort of spread throughout the others like a virus. And then it leads you to the book of Revelation, which was written by some sort of apocalyptic Jew undercover agent to assassinate who Jesus was and who the loving Creator is. So I'm a Christian. I'm not a Jewish Christian. And I never bothered about it because I studied Buddha's teachings when I left the Jewish Christian Catholic Church, because he was a pacifist, and the first Christians were pacifists as I am. So I belong to the very first Church of Jesus, the very first community of spiritual children on following his way of love and non-violence. And so there we go. So the Gospels of Jesus Unplugged, I'll put that out now. And you'll find this a much easier read if you want to be a Christian. I mean, if you want to be a true Christian, you just have to read out the book of Revelation, cut the Bible in two. Don't look at the Jewish religion. I advise you, don't look at that at all, because there is a war god in there. And they'll tell you that's the same God as Jesus. Well, that's going to confuse you. That's schizophrenia. You don't mix the new wine in with the old wine, Jesus said, otherwise you'll lose the understanding of the new wine. Don't do that. And of course, you don't put two wines in one wine cask. But when you look at the Bible, it's got two wines in it, the old wine and the new wine. Jesus said, don't do that. I'm a Christian. I mean, I can see it. It's like a bloody elephant in the room, you know. Jesus taught we can all experience an inner spiritual awakening if we search for it. He called this the treasure hidden in the field of earth or flesh. This is our eternal spiritual identity, empowered only by the loving spiritual life force of our loving spiritual Creator. Our bodies of flesh are only temporary and empowered by earthly things, and all flesh dies. Only our spiritual body and soul mind of love lives on to come into the presence of our loving Creator, to reap as we have sown. Jesus taught the same thing as Buddha, karma. His teachings and spiritual way of love and non-violence can help awaken us all into a new spiritual life here on earth, leading us to the heavenly spiritual world of love after death. Jesus taught we all have two different bodies with us in one, and he said that the spiritual body, being eternal, is the most important to be healthy and well in spirit. He provides us with the spiritual instructions to follow and become at one with, to be awakened and transformed into spiritual children of light of our loving spiritual Creator in heaven. So that's half of the reading there. They're the contents of the book. We're reading, we're at Matthew, I think, part maybe 8 or something. So I'll carry on reading there. Now this is really interesting. This netcast in the sea is fantastic. I love this one. Now the Thomas Gospel, thank heavens, they tried to destroy, the Jewish Christians tried to destroy the Thomas Gospel because there was too much truth in it. Jesus' sayings, they're too truthful, and they were rocking the boat with, they were already developing this business of the flesh rises up from the, Jesus' body of flesh rose, not his, he wasn't in a spiritual body, no, his body of flesh, it had wounds in it. he said, no, your body's like angels, they're perfect. They covered it up for different reasons. I explained why in the teachings of Jesus Unplugged, I explained why the disciples had to hide that he rose in a spiritual body, and they had to hide his body of flesh. But the net cast into the sea, it's a beautiful example of how Matthew has perverted Jesus' teachings and linked it into the apocalypse. Or someone's done it to Matthew. Some clever apocalyptic Jew has gone in there and manipulated, put in extra things in amongst the words. Or maybe Matthew was the apocalyptic Jew. I don't know. One of the two. Thomas 8. Jesus said, this is net cast into the sea. This is the original. A person is like a wise fisherman. A person is like a wise fisherman, Jesus said, who cast the net into the sea and drew it up from the sea full of little fish. Among them, the wise fisherman discovered a good, great fish, the one great pearl, the treasure hidden in the field, the one great fish, same thing, same message. So the fisherman threw all the little fish back into the sea, and with no hesitation kept the good, great fish, the one great pearl, the treasure in the field. Let go of all the material things, let go of all the little fish. He kept the one good, great fish. Whoever has ears to listen and understand, then hear. Beautiful. That is beautiful. Thomas 56, Jesus said, whoever has come to know the material world has discovered a carcass of flesh. And whoever has discovered a carcass of flesh is worth more than this material world. That's the one good fish. If you discover your spiritual body and bring it alive now through becoming at one with love and non-violence, and you have to do it, that means you've got to overcome all the things that would prevent you doing that. So you have to do that. But it will happen, and it will open up, and your clear light mind, you will experience it. Perfect tranquility in an evil world. But you will be tranquil in peace and love. That's your spiritual body coming alive before your body of flesh dies, which will be just a carcass of flesh. But this is beautiful. Author, this is the original and correct saying of Jesus regarding the net parable. Again, he directs us to find the one great and good fish, or our spiritual life, amongst all the other little identities we may have here on earth. Then we can let go of them and live out of our one true spiritual life and identity of love and non-violence, and express it through our unique earthly identity of the temporary flesh. By doing this, we help to consolidate our spiritual identity and bring it alive, getting ourselves ready to leave in our spiritual body at death and enter the heavenly spiritual world. This is what Jesus meant when talking about realizing our body of flesh is eventually just a carcass, which ignites the search for our heavenly spiritual body and soul mind of love that lives on in heaven. The Matthew Gospel version has deliberately manipulated and distorted to portray the fish as good and bad. Matthew changes the fish altogether. They're good and bad fish who will face judgment at an apocalypse. He even brings in the apocalypse. See, that's all lies. At the end of the age. He's manipulated it, perverted it, cut and pasted. This was done throughout the Gospels, especially Matthew, to lay a false trail that will lead Christians to the slanderous book of Revelation, portraying Jesus as a bringer of death, starvation, war, and sickness. A complete assassination of who he and our loving spiritual creator really are. I personally advise all true followers of Jesus to rip out the book of Revelation and burn it. I haven't got the other Matthew one here to compare it. It's in the other book, the Teachings of Jesus Unplugged. I've got it there. But in the Matthew version, he says the angels draw up the nets. They bring the nets up, the angels. And then the angels will gather the bad fish and throw them into hell. Matthew's completely perverted and distorted, or an apocalyptic Jew has altered the original and stuck it in there, altered Matthew. Matthew may have had the original for all we know. But someone's altered it. Someone's perverted Jesus' teachings, perverted his words, distorted it, and it's all about the apocalypse and the bad fish are going to be thrown into hell, and the angels are the one casting the net in the sea. Whereas the original says, a person is like a wise fisherman. You and me are like a wise fisherman. And we cast our net into the sea and draw up lots of little fish. You and I could become all sorts of identities in this world, lots of little egos. Well, your little egos are nothing compared to your beautiful spiritual mind of love, like an innocent child. That's the one good, great fish you have to find. And your mind has to become that. Then your spiritual body, it illuminates, it comes alive, because that's how the life force comes into you, through your mind being cleaned of all the evil thoughts. Then you're connected with the nexus to heaven, the wellspring within, Jesus calls it, and the loving life force from heaven can easily flow into you and out through your physical body to anyone, and you become a light in this world of darkness. You'll never join an army, navy or air force. We condemn the military, we condemn the armaments industries being satanic, and we're the ones who try to bring peace on earth, and we do it through letting go of our body of flesh by becoming spiritual children of love. It's really beautiful. So Matthew, you can see how he's perverted it. It's extraordinary. It's beautiful. The Thomas exposes that truth just so beautifully. It's really wonderful. It's one of my favourite parts of Thomas. He exposes how Matthew's perverted it and turned it into an apocalyptic load of garbage and put it onto Jesus. It's really interesting. Whoever did it was really a Jew who hated Jesus and wanted you to go to the book of Revelation so you could go back and worship the two-headed God of the Jews and their satanic war god, Yahweh one. That's not Jesus. That's not the loving God. That's another God. Jesus called it Satan. Jesus rejected it in Nazareth. Matthew 13:53-58. Jesus came to his own country and his disciples followed him. And on the Sabbath he began to teach in the synagogue, and many that heard him were astonished, saying, "Where did this man get all of this wisdom? And how does he perform mighty works by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James, Joseph, And Judas and Simon, are not his sisters here with us? And they took offence at him teaching like this. But Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honour, except in his own country, and among his own kin, and in his own house. And he could do no mighty works there, except laying his hands on a few sick people to heal them, because they had no respect or belief in him or what he was saying. Thomas 31, Jesus said, a prophet is not popular in his hometown. A doctor does not heal family and friends. See, because he had a spiritual enlightenment by connecting to only a God of love, that's where he got all his wisdom from, of course, because God is only love. The true loving creator of heaven's only love. And heaven's a place of only love, so only children of only love can go there from earth, the earth world. So he had wisdom that they didn't know about, because they hadn't experienced that, they weren't being taught that. It was a dualistic religion. They had a satanic war god they worshipped, and another god of love. Oh, schizophrenic. Inner defilement, Matthew 15:1-20. The scribes, and the other thing about it too, Jesus was a carpenter, and yet he became a spiritually awakened child of a loving spiritual creator. The first people he taught were simple fishermen. See, the thing is, anyone can awaken to become a spiritual child of the loving spiritual creator in heaven and have this beautiful power that he had to heal other children from heaven. Anyone can do it. He said so. But you've got to clean your mind out. Connect to heaven with your mind of love, heaven's only love. Bring your spirit alive, and the power will flow into you from heaven, which can only be used for love. It won't work if you try to use it to kill anything. Heaven doesn't do that. Matthew 15:1-20. The scribes and Pharisees came to Jesus asking, why do your disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they do not wash their hands when they eat bread. This is the inner defilement story about your spiritual body. He answered, why do you transgress the commandment of your God for the sake of your tradition? For your God commanded, honour your father and mother, and he who speaks evil of father or mother, let him surely die. But you say, if anyone tells his father or mother that what they should have received from them is given to God, then they no longer have to honour their father or mother. So for the sake of your tradition you have made void the word of your God. You hypocrites! Well did Isaiah predict, saying, this people honours me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the laws of men. You prefer the laws of men, such as washing of pitchers and cups and many other such unimportant things, instead of the laws of your God. Jesus said to the crowd, hear and understand. It is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a man, but what comes out of it. This defiles a man. Then the disciples came to Jesus and said, the Pharisees were offended by what you just said. Jesus answered, every plant which our loving spiritual creator has not planted will be unable to survive without her loving spiritual life force. Leave them to themselves. They are blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind leads the blind, both will fall into a ditch. Peter then asked Jesus to explain the parable to them. Jesus said, are you still without understanding? Don't you understand there's only one loving spiritual creator and how to get there is to become at one with love? Don't you get it yet? Do you not yet understand that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then it is eliminated? But those things that proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile a man. For out of the heart proceeds evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lewdness, pride, foolishness, false witness, and blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man, but to eat with unwashed hands does not defile a man. Author. Jesus reminds us again that our inner spiritual body and soul mind of love are the most important part of our life to keep clean. There's no doubt about it in my mind whatsoever. Our physical bodies are literally made of earth and dirt anyway and return to it at death. You only leave in your spiritual body. Keep it clean, Jesus says. If not, you won't enter heaven. You'll have to be cleansed. And that's what's called, I call it the hell of burning realizations. Anyway, that's another story. Leaven of the Pharisees, Matthew 16:5-12. The disciples had forgotten to bring bread when they set off in the boat with Jesus. Then Jesus said to them, Be careful about the leaven of the Pharisees, Sadducees and Herod. They thought Jesus was talking about not bringing bread. But Jesus was aware of what they were saying and said, "Oh, you of little faith, why do you think what I just said was about you not bringing bread? Do you not understand or remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000 and how many baskets you took up, nor the 7 loaves of the 4,000 and how many large baskets you took up? How is it then that you do not understand? I was not talking about bread. I was talking about the leaven of the Pharisees, Sadducees and Herod." Then they understood he was talking about the teachings of them, not about bread. They were a bit slow off the mark, the old disciples, but they were deeply entrenched in the dualistic God of the Jews, you see, the two-headed Yahweh God. So it's a perverted God, so it takes time to come out of it. Author: the Jews were teaching that their two-headed God Yahweh was the only one true God. Jesus warns the disciples not to listen to or believe them, as he was teaching them about the one true, loving, spiritual Creator, and the correct way of love that leads us all to the heavenly spiritual world. Peter calls Jesus the Anointed One, Matthew 16:13-20. When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I am?" And they told him, "Some say John the Baptist, and others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah, or one of the old prophets." Jesus asked, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered, saying, "You are the Anointed One, a child of the loving Creator." Jesus said, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my loving spiritual Creator, who is in the heavenly spiritual world, has. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys of the heavenly kingdom, and whoever is bound against the earth will be bound from entering heaven, and whoever is loosed from the earth will be loosed into heaven." It's born again into the Spirit or stay in the flesh. The choice is yours. And he told them not to tell anyone that he was the anointed child of our loving Creator. Thomas 12. Thomas is really interesting. The disciples said to Jesus, "We know you will leave us. Who is going to be our leader then?" Jesus said to them, "No matter where you reside, you are to go to James the Just. For the care of heaven and earth, he came into being." Now in Thomas, Jesus doesn't say go to Peter, or Peter's the rock, or he's the foundation stone, the foundation leader. It's James the Just. So it doesn't really matter too much, I suppose, but it's just that it's interesting. Thomas 43, his disciples asked him, "Who are you to teach us all these things?" Jesus replied, "Don't you know who I am from what I have been saying to you? You have become like the Jews. Either they love the tree but hate the fruit, or they love the fruit but hate the tree." That saying must have been early on when they were just following him. They must have thought, who are you? Who are you to teach? You're just a carpenter. So I think that was an early recorded saying of the disciples. They just thought, who are you? Who are you? Well, how come you know all this stuff? Thomas 13, Jesus said to his disciples, compare me with someone. In fact, in the Last Supper, of course, they actually say, "We now know that you know everything." So you can see the transition. Who are you to teach us all these things at the beginning? Because they're coming out of this dualistic two-headed God religion. And he's telling them about, no, it's only love. And heaven's only love. And you have to become it only love. The loving Creator's only love. Who are you to teach us all these things? But in the John Gospels at the Last Supper, we now know that you know everything. And you're telling us everything. And we now know that you are the one who knows everything. So you can see the transition over a few years, from this beginning saying to the end saying in the Last Supper. Thomas 13, Jesus said to his disciples, "Compare me with someone and tell me who I am like." Simon Peter said, "You are like a just angel." Matthew said, "You are like a wise philosopher." Thomas said, "Teacher, my mouth is utterly unable to say whom you are like." You're like no one I've ever met before. You're really special. Jesus then said to Thomas, "I am no longer your teacher, for you have become intoxicated after drinking from the bubbling spiritual spring that I have tended." And he took Thomas and withdrew and told him 3 things. When Thomas joined the others again, they asked him, "What did Jesus tell you?" Thomas said to them, "If I tell you even one of the things he told me, you'll pick up rocks and stone me. Then fire will come forth from the rocks and devour you. So whatever he told Thomas, the others weren't ready to hear it. But Thomas understood. Jesus was connected to another world, another place. The others hadn't yet quite sort of cottoned on that he was a living spiritual child. Thomas did. That's why the Thomas Gospel had to be destroyed by the Jewish Christians. Author, the keys to the kingdom of the heavenly spiritual world that Jesus gave to Peter and the other disciples are his words and his teachings of the spiritual way of love and non-violence that opens the way for all children to follow to heaven. They're the keys to the kingdom of heaven. And you can have them. They're yours if you want them. Follow his way, follow his words. Those keys will unlock any locks you've put on the gates of heaven yourself by becoming a murderer or a robber or something, whatever evil thing, whatever you're doing. His words will unlock those locks by changing you so that sin will be removed, that evil thing will be removed. He'll cleanse you with his words. He'll help you understand how to be spiritual and loving. So the keys to heaven, we can all have them and use them if you want to have them. His words are the keys. In Thomas, we see Jesus picking James to be their leader, not Peter. And Thomas received special spiritual truths that the other disciples were not yet ready to hear or understand. For example, Jesus may have openly told Thomas that Yahweh was not the real God, but a hybrid between Satan and a loving God. I mean, he may have really told Thomas the absolute truth. The others may not have quite been ready yet to be told Yahweh's Satan. They may not have been ready for that. That's total blasphemy, of course, for Jews. You know, even though Jesus said that's who they're worshipping half of the time, then they worship the loving God the other half of the time, or a quarter of the time nowadays. This sort of truth would be regarded as blasphemy by Jews, and they would stone you to death for speaking this. As Thomas points out, you'll stone me to death if I tell you what he told me. Also in Thomas, we see different answers about who the disciples believe he might be, and the disciples questioning him about who he was. This may have been at an early time when the disciples were just beginning to follow Jesus. As I said earlier, in the beginning they said, who are you to tell us all these things? Aren't you a carpenter? But at the end, in the Last Supper in John, we now know that you know everything. We believe you. Thanks for telling us. Jesus predicts his death, Matthew 16:21-23. Jesus began explaining to the disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things, and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and rise again from the dead. Then Peter took him aside and said, "Far be it from you, Master, that this should happen to you." Jesus turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me, for you are not thinking about the spiritual things of our loving Creator, spiritual Creator, but the things of man." Author, Peter had no idea about the deeper spiritual teachings of Jesus, and still did not realize we all have two different bodies in one, as Jesus was teaching. Jesus needed to die to the flesh in order to reveal to them his living spiritual body after it leaves his body of flesh at the time of death. Peter could only think of his body of flesh dying because he didn't know about what Jesus' goal was, to appear to them in his beautiful spiritual body, which was perfect, had no wounds in it, after his body of flesh died. Peter didn't get it. And protect your flesh, Jesus, be material. Don't be spiritual, Jesus. Just get behind me, Satan. What a temptation to avoid it, Satan was sort of using Peter, but Peter was ignorant of the fact that we all have two bodies, one spiritual. Take up your cross. Yeah, poor Peter. Matthew 16:24-28. Jesus said to the disciples and the crowd, "If anyone desires to come after me, let them become selfless, die to the flesh, take up their cross and follow me in spirit. For whoever desires to just save their physical life will lose it. But whoever gives their physical life over for their spiritual life, by following my way and teachings, will find their true eternal spiritual life. For what profit is it to a person if they gain the whole temporary material world, but lose their own eternal spiritual and soul? What material thing can anyone exchange for their spirit and soul? I say to you, there are some standing here who will not die before they see the spiritual child of our loving spiritual Creator going into a heavenly spiritual kingdom. Now, I'll just mention that word going has been altered by the Jewish Christians, the apocalyptic Jewish Christian who's got all the lies in the Gospels. They've changed the Greek word going, and the Greek word that means going can also mean coming. It's a dualistic word depending on the context of the sentence. So the Greek interlinear word from the original Gospels can mean going or coming. If you look at all the Jewish Christian Gospels in the world, they've still got the apocalyptic lie in there, that someone's just done a simple switch. Because this makes no sense. I say to you, there are some standing here who will not die before they see the spiritual child of our loving spiritual Creator. I've got the right version here, going into a heavenly spiritual kingdom. In the Jewish Christian apocalyptic version, Matthew or someone else has written, some of you here will not die until you see the spiritual child of our loving Creator coming on the clouds of heaven, back to cause the apocalypse. Some of you it's going to happen really soon. I'm coming back really soon on the clouds, like Daniel. Some apocalyptic Jew has overwritten it, changed the word from going to coming, and then added in this apocalyptic crap that Jesus never spoke. Coming back on the clouds of heaven. Jesus never said that. This is what he said. I say to you, there are some standing here who will not die before they see the spiritual child of a loving spiritual Creator going into her heavenly spiritual kingdom. He was saying, the Jews are going to kill me soon, really soon. And I'll be leaving, and you'll see me leave. The dead body of flesh will be there, and I'll be gone to heaven in my spiritual body. That's what he's saying. That is the correct saying. And if you look at the Jewish Christian Gospels, you'll see how they've perverted it and distorted whoever did this evil thing and turned it into an apocalypse. He's coming back at the apocalypse again, you see. That's why Jewish Christians teach these false lies to children. It's very disturbing, schizophrenic, it's wrong, it's almost evil. And they just have no understanding of who Jesus really is, in that sense that he's only love. He can't come back and cause suffering. Neither can I. Even my dog didn't cause suffering. Sandy 7. Thomas 42, Jesus said, be wanderers. Very short, simple saying. Walk through this world and go to heaven. Just wander through here and go to heaven. Travel on. Beautiful. Again, we see Jesus saying it is vital that we bring our spiritual bodies and souls to life as he did, by following his way and teachings, and not be overly attached to this material, temporary world. Flesh is not spirit. Spirit is not flesh. They're different bodies, different substances. For a while, they are at one in purpose, while here, to bring heaven's love to earth and all children. Providing your spiritual body is your primary identity, then your physical body will be at one with your primary spiritual identity of love, and so you'll be manifesting love from heaven that flows into your spiritual body and out through your material body of flesh that dies. But for a while, our two bodies can be at one. That's what Jesus taught. But at one in love. Beautiful. In the short Thomas saying, Jesus directs us to remember that we are just wandering through this world, not staying here. So set your course for heaven as you travel along the road of experiences of your life on earth. So whatever experiences that come upon you, challenges, I've had my fair share and everyone does, keep the compass pointing towards heaven. That compass means you're trying to remember you're a spiritual child of heaven on earth. That's what you have to try to remember every day. And live out of your spiritual response to the situation or to the experience, no matter what it is. That's when your eye starts to become stronger, your spiritual body stronger, until finally your spiritual mind opens fully, your eye becomes single, full of love. You see everything in this world through the eye of love. And what happens? Jesus said, your whole body will be filled with light once you reach that level, and you'll be the same as me and the same as Buddha. You'll be like me. I'll be in you, you'll be in me, and we'll both be in the loving spiritual life force of our loving Creator. He says that. I'm in you, you're in me, we're both in the loving life force of God, of love. Remember, as a Christian, you see, it's different for me. I didn't realize how different this was until I visited all these Jewish Christian churches. I was really shocked. I was saddened, shocked, I got angry. Not with them, I didn't abuse them or anything. But I was just so shocked and angry that they were perverting his teaching so badly. And so that's why I've done this work for them. I never thought in my older age I'd be defending Jesus and the loving spiritual creator and life force of Jesus and the way to heaven from the Jewish Christians who are perverting it. But they worship Yahweh, you see, so that's, what can you do? There are two Yahwehs. One's a war god. Jesus hasn't got anything to do with that Yahweh. So cut the Bible in two, get the Jewish religion out of the Christian church. Just get rid of it. You don't need it. Rip out the book of Revelation and burn it, because that is a satanic book to assassinate who Jesus is and to assassinate the loving creator of Jesus. It is the war god of the Jews, that, and that's a satanic like figure coming on the clouds to do all these satanic war god things to children. That's not Jesus. Anyone who knows Jesus or reads his words or had a look at what he did while he was alive here knows that can't be Jesus. But they don't look at his words. I love his saying, even early on, why do you call me Lord, Lord, but you don't follow what I tell you to do? I mean, even then he had trouble. Now, it's like the brainwashing continues from one generation to the next. Well, I'm here to break that brainwashing and break the chains and the poison of the Jewish religion, because it's poisoned. It's poisoning the Christian teachings of Jesus. The way to heaven is love and non-violence, and that's all there is about it. And you can argue against me if you want it, but you've got no legs to stand on if you're only using Jesus' words, unless you use the apocalyptic bits. But that's, even those they don't have a great, they don't mean anything much more than you're going to reap what you sow, really. But the apocalyptic lies have been put in there, and that's all rubbish. No, they're trying to link you back into the war god. Don't go there. Get the Jewish religion out of our Christian churches. That's what I say. Clean our churches of the Jewish religion, because there's a war god in there as well as a God of love. There are two gods in that religion. That's what's wrong with it. Now, we don't need that as followers of Jesus. We don't need a war god. You know, we don't need a war god. Love your enemies. Okay, well, that's, as I said, I'm a Christian, so you'll find my views, you might think, I've never heard anyone talk like this. He must be crazy. No. I'm not a Jewish Christian. That's why I'm different. I'm just a follower of Jesus of Nazareth, and Buddha backs up what Jesus said. You've got to clean out your mind of all the dirt in your mind, Buddha said. Jesus said you've got to clean out the dirt from inside the cup, inside your mind, Jesus said. Buddha said then you'll have a clear light mind experience and treat everyone the same. Jesus said you'll have a body filled with light and you'll treat everyone the same. As a friend, as a spiritual child of the loving Creator, whether they know it or not, we have to treat them, love them as ourselves, which is a Jewish saying, of course. And Jesus says, yeah, that's a good one. I'll keep that one. I'll add some more though. Love your enemies. Well, we're not doing that, said the Jews. Okay, well, don't follow me then, said Jesus. Don't follow me to heaven. That's your choice. And remember, Jesus and the loving spiritual Creator can't hurt anyone. This is another big Jewish lie that the Jewish Christians teach, that the war god's going to kill you or something in the Jewish Christian churches, or throw you to hell or something. They're talking about their Jewish God Yahweh, the war god that they worship, the satanic war god. Jewish Christians, a lot of them worship that war god. They really do. And they're Jews. But they don't even know they're Jews. They think they're Christians because Jesus is there. But they're worshipping this murdering war god. And they say, oh, yeah, that's the God of Jesus. Yeah. But we're going to be saved. He won't do it to us because we're with Jesus. And Jesus says, love your enemies. I've come to save the world, not condemn it. If anyone hears my words and doesn't follow them, I won't judge them. It's reaping as you sow. Jesus and the loving Creator in heaven cannot hurt you. You've got to think of just love coming towards you from heaven. They want you to become at one with love inside yourself, and you'll feel that loving life force come into your life. And then you'll realize, oh, I get it. Oh, right, okay. I see now. Oh, wow, there's a lot of confusion in this world. Oh, I'm no longer that confused anymore. Heaven exists. I've got a spiritual body that's going to leave when I die. But now I've got to express the love in my spiritual body and mind towards everyone. We express it differently, of course. When you're talking about the satanic warmongers, you know, the armies are all satanic now, we have to say to them, warn them, you're going to hell. After you die, you're going to hell. I don't send them there or judge or condemn them as such. I say your actions will condemn yourself to hell. You're condemning yourself to hell. My judgment, though, is correct because, that's what happens. Jesus said so. And Buddha too. You reap what you sow, karma. Murder and kill, death. What do you think you're going to experience after you die? A nice happy party with the birthday cake? I don't think so. Anyway, love your way to heaven. We'll move on to the next part of Matthew. I do enjoy talking about Jesus, but email me if you want to. If you're interested in emailing me, if you listened this far, there's my email, gcinfocus, jcinfocus@gmail.com. And no one ever does, but no one ever listens. And there aren't many Christians in the world anyway. They're all Jewish Christians. So I've already been condemned by a Jewish Christian, as sort of I won't be saved because of what I'm saying. Don't say that. You can't say I won't be saved unless I'm murdering someone or something, or robbing banks or something. That fair enough, you can say it then. But I'm just talking about love and non-violence. How will that stop me getting into a place that's only love and non-violence? But he's a Jewish Christian, you see. He loves the Jewish religion and he loves the book of Revelation. He wants it to happen. See, that's the other big problem. Some of these Jewish Christians want it to happen. They want this destruction to happen. I don't want that to happen. I want the world to become spiritual, for children to wake up. And then there's a chance we can help save the earth world for the generations to come. But you have to live a spiritual life, a simple life. Simple material life filled with spiritual love is the best life you'll ever have. Love your way to heaven, hate your way to hell. The choice is your choice. Choose the first one. They say it's better there.